Hello, ZachDevolf133 here. I have a universe for you. What if Izuku has a necromancer quirk? Part 2. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Dabi remembers nothing of his former life. His first clear memory is waking up in a forest and hearing a howl. When he got up, he saw a child being attacked by a wolf, and before he could think clearly, he attacked the wolf with his flames, which for some reason he knew he possessed. One look at the small boy, pale, trembling with fear, with dull green eyes, was enough. Something about him made Dabi feel protective, and that was before he even found out that the boy was basically the one who gave him back his life. That night, Dabi made a promise that he would protect this boy with his life. Or death. Being a zombie is confusing. After seeing the boy cry over something as simple and basic as a plate of toast, this commitment only grew. Protecting Izuku isn't enough. Dabi will make sure he is happy, no matter what he has to do. For some reason, Dabi already thinks of him as a younger brother. He watches for a few minutes while Izuku sleeps. He's so quiet, his breathing almost non-existent, and his pale skin would make anyone who entered the room at that moment think he's dead. The man, Frank, gestures for Dabi to follow him, and he scutters silently out of the bedroom. The upside of being a skeleton is that he's so light that walking without making noise is laughably easy. Dabi carefully closes the door, which fortunately doesn't creak. He follows Frank into the kitchen and watches as the new zombie starts making tea. Can you even drink? Dabi asks. Don't know, but I can try. Frank shrugs. My sense of touch, sight, hearing, and smell work. Why not taste? Fair enough, Dabi replies. So, what are we doing now? I'm already attached. Frank says, that kid is adorable. How can anyone even think of being cruel to him? He didn't tell me much, but from what I gathered, abusive father, negligent mother, Dabi explains. Looks like the father had enough. Brought him to a forest, dropped the kid, and left. He found my bones there. He clenched his fists. Had I woken up just a few seconds later, he would have been mauled by a wolf. Damn bastards, Frank growls. You two can stay for as long as you want. I'm already invested. The group will probably grow. Dabi warns. I'm sure he'll find more of us. As morbid as it sounds, I think the kid has a knack for finding corpses. He smirks. I mean, he found me and you in less than a week. If this place gets too crowded, I can see about finding a new one. Frank shrugs. Let the kid create his new family. Dabi chuckles. So, what do we do now? He asks. The kid will probably sleep for a few hours. And I can't really leave like this. I draw too much attention. Being basically naked doesn't help. For now, he fishes a credit card from his pocket. I'll see about getting you to a few clothes. Do you even know the password? Dabi asks. I have a hunch. Frank shrugs. I might not remember, but I can see my personality didn't change. So I can guess what I'd choose as a password. Fair enough, Dabi replies. We can see what else we can do later. Good thing neither me nor you really needs to eat. It'll help save money. Frank agrees, as he finishes his cup of tea. He tastes it. Yup, palate still works. On another note, my inability to cook also translates into brewing tea. He dumps all the tea in the sink. This is the worst tea I've ever had. This is technically the first tea you ever had, Dabi replies. My point still stands, Frank shrugs. Anyway, I'm going now. You can take a bath too. I think the TV works, and help yourself to any clothes that you think it might fit you. Then he gets up and leaves the apartment. Dabi gets up, and after thinking for a few minutes, he decides to take a bath. He doesn't sweat, but his bones are covered in dirt and dust. He soon learns that washing is extremely difficult, especially when it comes to cleaning between his joints. On another note, he also learns that he has detachable limbs. After their frankly much longer than intended a bath, he silently enters Frank's room being careful not to wake up Izuku, and takes a few clothes. He doesn't really look at what he picks, he just wants something to wear. He ends up taking a pair of jogging pants and a simple sports t-shirt. Like with Izuku, they are too big, but they will do the trick for now. He stops to look in the mirror for a moment. As expected, he's a skeleton, so there is not much to see. Frank offered to try to bring his body back, but Dabi refused. While what he said about liking to freak people out is true, this is not the only reason. For some reason, the thought of having his old face back fills him with anxiety. It's unlikely that Dabi will ever recover his memories, so he will probably never know why. But it's okay, he honestly likes his current look. A few hours later, Frank returns. Izuku is still sleeping. The poor boy must have been exhausted, and he's only 6 years old. They let him rest, while Frank shows Dabi the clothes he bought. Apparently, he was right about his credit card password, 4242. For Dabi, he brought simple shorts, a white long-sleeved shirt with a black stripe in the arms, and a hooded jacket. About 2 hours later, Izuku finally leaves the room, rubbing his eyes and yawning, an honestly lovely scene. Frank hands him the clothes, and a few minutes later he comes back wearing a pair of dark blue jeans and a black hoodie. This will contrast horribly with the pair of red tennis shoes the boy is wearing, but who is Dabi? Fashion police, Izuku seems happy with his new clothes, and that's all that matters to Dabi. ... It is a few months later that they meet their next addition to the group. While living with Frank, Izuku and Dabi often search dump sites for materials that they can recycle and earn some money. Their main source of income is Frank, who has started working as a healer in an underground clinic, but they do their best to pull their own weight. It's on one of these visits to the garbage dump that Izuku begins to smell an awful odor different from the usual garbage smell. Deciding to check it out, he finds, for a change, a corpse buried in the garbage. From the looks of it, this body had been there for a few days. The body is already decomposing, and he can see maggots moving around inside of it. Dabi, Izuku calls. I don't think it's a good idea to just reanimate this one. Dabi gets closer and frowns looking at the body. You're probably right, Dabi replies. I know you can restore the body, but there's no way to know if the maggots won't be stuck inside him. Gross. But how do we carry him back? Izuku asks. Wait here for now, Dabi says, and starts running. Izuku shrugs and waits. Dabi returns about an hour later with a large blanket, a suitcase, and a can of aerosol. Your plan? Izuku asks, raising an eyebrow. This should neutralize the smell for a while, Dabi explains. We can stuff the body in the suitcase and take it home. We should wait until it gets dark, Izuku says. If someone stops us and notices we carrying a body. Yeah, it'll be an awkward explanation, Dabi nods. The two wait until dark, then stow the body in the blanket and then in the suitcase, and take the body back to the apartment. Fortunately, no one stops them on the way. Hey, found something today, Frank asks as they enter. You usually get back a lot earlier. Yeah, you could say we found, Dabi says, the next one. You brought a dead body here, Frank asks. Why not just reviving him like with me? This one was dead for a few days, Izuku replies, and in the garbage dump. I don't know if just reanimating him will remove the maggots. I see, Frank nods. Bring him in, I'll prepare a place for us to work. They bring the man to the bathroom and puts it in the bathtub. A few minutes later, Frank enters with some surgical instruments. Are you a surgeon? Dabi asks. Apparently, I'm skilled enough to perform emergency surgeries. Frank shrugs. My quirk helps too. Well, what do you know? Dabi says, then looks back at the body. So, how do we do this? We need to kill them first, Frank replies. Izuku, fill the tub. Izuku nods and starts filling the tub. Just by that, a few of them starts falling from the body. Great, now, Dobby hums in acknowledgement. I need you to boil the water as much as you can. Doesn't matter if it evaporates. Alright, fall back, please. He puts his hands on the water, which instantly starts boiling. He holds it until the water evaporates. Then they fill it up again and repeat a few times. Alright, I think it's enough, Frank says. Now, leave the rest for me, he says, opening his bag and taking out a scalpel. This might take a while, but I'll call you when I finish. Then he lies the body on the floor and starts working on it. Dobby takes Izuku out and prepares something for him to eat. They promptly try to block the recent memories. About 3 hours later, Frank calls them back. It's ready, he says. Izuku enters the bathroom and finds the corpse lying there. For the first time, he looks at it. There isn't much left to identify him, but he looks male, probably in his 30s. From what was left of the face, Izuku can identify short black hair and a few scars. Taking a knife from the kitchen, he slashes his arm and lets the blood fall on the body. Like it happened with Frank, the body starts repairing itself. First, the decomposition reverses itself, revealing a little more of his features. Izuku notices several wounds in the form of holes in his chest. He was probably shot to death. These then disappear. Finally, the dozens of scars spread over his body also disappear. When it's over, he gives his hand to Frank, who quickly heals the slash. Alright, now we wait for him to wake up. Frank says, "Can you bring him to the living room?" "I'll start cleaning this. I can help," Izuku offers. "Leave it to me, kiddo," Frank replies, ruffling his curls. "It'll be better if you're with him when he wakes up." Izuku nods and helps Dobby carry the man to the sofa. As soon as they lay the man there, he jumps up, opening his gray eyes in alarm. "Hey, it's okay," Izuku tries. "Where am I?" the man asks. "And who are you?" "You're in our home," Izuku replies. "We found you in a garbage dump. My name is Midoriya Izuku, and my quirk is Necromancy." "Necromancy?" the man asks, then taps his chest. "I feel that I should have scars." "Is this your doing?" he asks hesitantly. "Did I die?" "Yes, I'm sorry," Izuku replies. The man finally calms down a bit and sits back at the sofa. "Do you remember anything about yourself?" "Let me think." He thinks for a while. "I'm 34. My quirk is weapons mastery. I can use any weapon expertly, even if I'm holding it for the first time. I think I fought people." "You're not a hero, I know," Izuku says. "And there was no missing heroes announced recently, so I think you were a vigilante." "It's possible," the man replies, looking at himself. "My clothes are ruined, but I can see some things that were probably part of my gear. I can't say I remember anything else." "So, you remember a little more than Dobby, but less than Frank," Izuku mutters. "So I might be right? The time between death and reanimation is important to how much you'll remember." "Well, you're welcome to stay with us," Dobby says. "You just need a name." "A name? Huh?" He thinks for a while. "How about Ronin?" "Good for me. I'm Dobby." Dobby introduces himself. "The kid is Midoriya Izuku," Izuku says. "Nice to meet you, Ronin-san. Drop the honorifics, kid." "Just Ronin is enough," Ronin replies. "Well, I'm Frank," Frank says as he enters. "Frankenstein, and now that you're back to the living world. And Ed, I guess you can take a bath. I'll prepare some clothes for you." "Yeah, that's probably a good idea," Ronin replies. "Especially if I was in garbage dump." Ronin fits into their dynamics effortlessly. He's the only one there who has any cooking skills. His food tastes terrible, but at least it's edible, unlike whatever Frank and Dobby try to make. After a few weeks with them, Izuku asks Ronin to start training him. He wants to learn how to defend himself. Ronin eventually accepts, and they start training in the forest where Izuku was dropped by his father. First, he starts learning how to use a staff. Izuku soon catches himself looking up to Ronin, while he looks up to Dabi and Frank. Seeing them as older brothers, Ronin to him is like a father figure. He's kind despite being stern, always explains their training to Izuku, and doesn't get angry when he makes mistakes. He reminds Izuku of how Hisa he was before everything went downhill. He just hopes it doesn't turn the same with him too. A few weeks later, while he was returning home from yet another training session, Izuku literally stumbles upon his next friend. When he looks back and sees another skeleton, he begins to wonder what is wrong with this forest. This skeleton is half buried, looking as if someone has buried it in a hurry, and the wind has dug it up in time. Sweeping some of the earth with his hands, he soon realizes that this skeleton is not human. From the looks of it, it can't be of Alf either, it's too small. From the skull, Izuku assumes it's a cat. Should I? Izuku hesitates. He didn't try reviving an animal since that first dove. I say, go for it, kid, Ronin replies, smiling at him. The landlord doesn't care about animals anyway, and it's not like anyone would mind. Izuku nods and slashes his hand with a knife he'd been carrying for this kind of situation. Like with Dabi, the bones gather around, and Izuku was about to move his hand away when he notices something. Organs start to regrow on the cat's skeleton, followed by muscle, then skin, and finally dark purple fur. It takes a few minutes, but the cat is back to a perfect state. Wait, could I have done the same with Dabi? Izuku asks no one in particular. Now that I think about it, I didn't finish the process with Dabi. I had to run from the Valve. A hiss brings him back from his thoughts. He looks down and sees the cat hissing at him. I won't hurt you, I promise, Izuku says, putting his hand away from the cat. I'm Izuku. Midoriya Izuku. Are you talking to a cat like they can understand you? Ronin asks, and the cat starts scratching at the ground. Yeah, cats are smarter than you think, Izuku replies. I mean, sure, but you're talking to them like they can understand every word, Ronin replies. Meow. They look down, and under the cat's paw is written, I can understand you. Okay, the cat can write, Ronin says. Sure, why not? A highly intelligent zombie cat. You're a zombie too, you know, Izuku replies, and opens his arms. Would you like to come with us? The cat approaches cautiously. I know it's scary, but I promise I won't hurt you. I brought you back. This boy cried the other day because I killed a spider. He doesn't have a single mean bone in his whole body, Ronin says. The poor spider was just living her life, Izuku says. Now who'll feed the baby spiders? Frankly, kid, Ronin shakes his head fondly. Finally deciding that they aren't a threat, the cat jumps on Izuku's arms. Izuku gets up and starts walking home with Ronin. I'm sorry, but I don't have much warmth for you, Izuku says. It's part of my quirk, my skin is cold. Do you have a quirk too, right? The cat narrows their eyes at him, but nods slowly. Is that why you were hurt before? Do you remember anything? The cat first nods, then shakes their head. Their bones were there for a good while. It's hard to say for how long they were dead, Ronin says. When animals with quirks were rarer, it was normal for them to be either killed or experimented on. Things only began to change after Nezu got the same rights as humans. How can someone hurt a baby like this? Izuku asks, then looks back at the cat. Are you male? The cat hisses. Female then? The cat meows. We need to find you a name. Do you have something in mind? She shakes her head. Grape. Ronin suggests, earning himself a hiss. I think she doesn't like it. Izuku chuckles. Meh, naming is not my strong suit anyway, Ronin shrugs. They go home, and Izuku brainstorm names with Dabi. Rose, Izuku suggests. But she's purple, Dabi replies. There are purple roses, Izuku shrugs. Nah, What about Bastard? Dobby. Who names their cat Bastard? What's next? Sushi? Izuku jokes, yeah, no, Angel, her. This one is more like ... He makes horns with his hands and puts above his head. Hisser, the cat hisses at him. See? She loves hissing. That's horrible. Izuku looks back at her. Then he notices her front paws are white, like she's wearing socks or gloves. How about Mittens? Mittens, Dobby snorts. Mittens, destroyer of worlds. The cat perks up and meows excitedly at them. I think she liked it, Dobby says. She closes her eyes and Frank's phone on the table starts vibrating. Frank picks it up and checks it. A text-to-speech app is downloading, and when it finishes it opens and characters starts appearing. I'm Mittens, destroyer of worlds, the app says. Izuku blinks at her a few times, then smiles and scratches behind her ears. I guess we found her quirk, he says. Technopathy, that's amazing. I know I'm amazing, the app says, but you can say it again. Izuku chuckles and keeps scratching her. We need to talk about money. This is how Frank started the conversation that morning. Izuku was in the kitchen, having breakfast. Ronan is in the living room watching TV. Dobby was trying to see if he could fry bacon on his ribs. And Mittens was somewhere in the house, doing her cat things. Are we having problems? Ronan asks, muting the TV to pay attention. Not quite, Frank replies. Izuku being the only one of us who needs to eat makes things much easier. But still, if this group is going to keep growing, we will have to move. Well, this apartment is for one person, and at the moment, there are for living here, Dobby points. I see your point, Ronan nods, but what can we do? Hard to say. My boss is a cheap son of a bitch who doesn't want to pay me properly, Frank huffs. I'm the best healer in that damn clinic, but the bastard pays me minimum wage. And he still has the nerve to say if you don't like it, you can leave in my face. So, we need other options, Ronan says. Anyone has ideas? I might have one, Dobby says. Not sure if it's safe, though. Oh, what is it? Frank asks. Just something I heard while on one of my walks at night, Dobby replies. I heard a group talking about some kind of underground guild. People go there to post contracts, and others go there to accept them. Basically, you get paid to fulfill these contracts. So, mercenary work, Ronan asks. Basically, Dobby shrugs. Oh, I heard of this place, Frank says. I healed a group that came from there. They said something about a contract gone wrong. I guess it's the best plan we'll have for now, Ronan says. None of us has an ID to get a legal job, and without knowing who we were before, it'll be quite hard to get one. He looks at Izuku. What do you think? Me, Izuku eyes widen. Why are you asking me? Because you're our leader, Ronan smiles. You're the one who reanimated us. You brought us together. But I'm just, Izuku gestures to himself. Shouldn't you be our leader? Nah, I agree with plain face, Dobby says. You're the one who brought us here, Izuku. I think you'll do a good job leading us. Doesn't mean you're alone, though, Frank adds. We'll be here to help you. Izuku thinks for a few seconds, then nods ... Okay, in this case, his expression changes to one of determination. Ronan, can you look for clues, anything that can lead us to this guild? Sure thing, boss, Ronan salutes him. Dobby, if we're going to do this, we need to be prepared, Izuku says. Mercenary work is gray area at best, criminal at worst. So I want you and Frank to prepare gear for us. Something that makes it harder to identify us. Medical supplies, weapons for Ronan. All right, boss man, Dobby says, and Izuku knows he's smirking. Sure thing, Frank smiles. Mittens, Izuku calls, and the cat soon jumps on his lap. Can you search the internet for us? He asks as he pats her head. We need loopholes we can use in case something goes wrong. Mittens meows, and Frank's phone dings. All right. I'll find everything we need, the text-to-speech app says. And I guess we'll need code names, Izuku says as an afterthought. I doubt telling our real names is a good idea. Number 1 rule in the underground, kid, Frank says, never let anyone know your name. Izuku nods and thinks for a few seconds, then he looks at Dabi and smiles. Arsonist, he says, ... double quotes. Dabi asks, you're not wrong about this, but still, Izuku giggles. Do you know tabletop RPGs? Izuku asks, and everyone shakes their heads. They were extremely popular in the pre-quirk era. Nowadays, it still has its fanbase, but it's quite small. Why pretend to have powers in an era where almost everyone has powers? He explains. Anyway, there are dozens of systems, and each system has different classes. I think Arsonist is self-explanatory. Good point. Dabi nods. Okay, I'm in. Great, Izuku smiles and then looks at Frank. You're Fixer. This class is primarily a healer. Then he looks at Ronin. Fighter. Basically, a warrior skilled in many weapons. He scratches mittens behind the ear. Artificer, engineers and technology wizards. I like it, Ronin says. And what about you? Isn't it obvious? Izuku asks. There's only one class for me, Necromancer. All right, Dabi claps his hands. So everyone has their roles now. Get to work. As they get up to start doing their tasks, Izuku feels a hand on his head. See, I knew you'd do fine. You're a natural leader. Ronin smiles at him. Now, if we're doing this, we'll need to double down on your training. Are you ready? Izuku beams at him and nods. I'm more than ready, he says firmly. I want to be useful. You are, Izuku, Ronin replies, ruffling his curls. I still want all the training you can give me, Izuku says. Don't go easy on me. I wouldn't dream of it, Ronin grins. Be ready. I'm just saying, Dabi says from the sidelines as Izuku spars with Ronin. The aesthetic is already there, you just need to embrace it. And where? Izuku dodges a blow from Ronin's Bakken and tries to counterattack with his staff, but is blocked. Am I supposed to find a scythe? He asks. Do you have any idea of how hard it was to even find Ronin's tonfas? Weapons are expensive, Ronin says, hitting a blow at Izuku's side. And you just died again. How many times this makes? Dabi asks. Today, 43, since I started sparring with Ronin. For 128, Izuku replies. Against 2 on my side, Dabi whistles. Man, you don't pull any punches, he says. How can you whistle? Ronin asks. You don't have lips. I stopped questioning, Izuku says. Dabi simply doesn't make any sense. He sits down and sips on a water bottle. And I don't want him to pull any punches. Dabi, I need to be ready. Who knows what will happen to you guys if I die? That's why we are here, Dabi says. We'll protect you, Izuku. And I want to protect you guys too, Izuku replies. So I need to get stronger, alright, Dabi says. In that case, how about another sparring partner? Bring it on, Bones, Izuku says with a grin. Sparring against a long-range fighter is a completely different experience, but Izuku learns quickly. By the end of the day, he even manages to land a blow on Dabi. The proud smile on Ronin's face was the greatest reward of that day. No mask, Izuku says, looking at the costume design Frank showed him. There is an old Yakuza group known for wearing raven masks. We don't want to be associated with them. The design is simple and reminiscent of a plague doctor's uniform. Shoulder cloak, a green hooded robe, long black gloves, a belt with a pouch, flexible pants, and long knee-high boots. Izuku also soon realizes that it's quite easy to hide armor under the robe. Alright, should I choose a new mask, or? No, let's leave it like this, Izuku replies with a smile. Sometimes hiding in plain sight is the best option. Alright, Frank says, scratching something in his notebook. No masks. Now, onto Dobby's design. The red wire, the one on the right, that's it. Now carefully ... No. The text-to-speech app instructs as Izuku tries to follow. But he's just no good with wiring ... Sorry, Mittens. I failed again, Izuku says dejectedly while looking at the collar that just shorted out and exploded again. We can try again, the app says. Failures are just stepping stones to success. I love your optimism, Izuku replies, patting Mittens on the head, but we will need new materials. I heard of a beach that has become a garbage dump in recent years, Mittens says. We can probably find some electronics to disassemble there. Izuku chuckles, alright, let me clean up this mess first. I'm covered in soot, he says. What do you think? Dobby shows Izuku his costume. Dobby's costume consists of blue pants, a white t-shirt, a blue torn and patched overcoat with short sleeves, and black boots. On his neck, he has a silver necklace with a turquoise-eyed skull. Looking good, Izuku replies with a smile. Is this fireproof? Nope, Dobby replies. But this will have to do for now. I guess you just need to go easy on the flames, Izuku replies. I never go easy on anything, kid, Dobby says. Well, it won't be my fault if you end up naked again, Izuku shrugs. The idiot thought it was fake, Ronin explains as he unwraps the cloth over the revolver. He sold it to me for just a third of the regular price. I guess you just need to go easy on the flames, Izuku replies. I never go easy on anything, kid, Dobby says. Well, it won't be my fault if you end up naked again, Izuku shrugs. The idiot thought it was fake, Ronin explains as he unwraps the cloth over the revolver. He sold it to me for just a third of the regular price. Is this a gun? Izuku asks, looking at the long barrel of the revolver, whose lower part looks like a knife. A gun blade. Do you have any idea of how hard it is to find one in Japan? Ronin asks. Very, Ronin confirms. Most are held by weapon collectors, and they just won't part with their collections. He swings it a few times to test the weight. Imbeciles, what use is a weapon if you won't use it? I guess not everyone thinks like you, Izuku shrugs. Well, I know I'll make good use of this baby, Ronin replies. Want to spar? Izuku suggests. Sure, Ronin smiles. If you land a hit on me this time, we'll buy ice cream on the way back. Deal, Izuku nods, grabbing his staff. Is the lab coat really necessary? Izuku asks as Frank shows his costume. Of course it is, Frank replies. To be a doctor, I have to look like a doctor. Frank's costume includes a dark green sweatshirt, black pants, long leather boots, a bag tied to a belt, and a lab coat. His belt buckle is shaped like a skull, and a gun holster is attached to his right leg, but you're not a doctor. Details, Frank waves him off. Okay, so what are we missing? Izuku asks. Ronin's costume will be ready in 2 more days. And whatever Mittens are having you work on, Frank counts. After that, we just need to be ready for when he finds the guild. In that case, we better not slack off now, Izuku says. By the way, how did you get a gun? Someone tried to mug me last week, Frank shrugs. As it turns out, being shot is a lot less dangerous when you are an undead. You're impossible, Izuku shakes his head and starts leaving. At least tell me you took the bullet off before healing. Who do you think I am? Frank replies indignantly. Of course, I forgot. How the hell did it take 24 years for you to die? I ask the same question almost daily, Izu. Yes, it works. An excited female voice comes from the collar on Mitten's neck. See, I knew you could do it, Izu. It only took 35 prototypes and 46 explosions to get one that works, Izuku replies. 36 is my lucky number, Mittens replies. And now that this is ready, we can go to the next project. And what would it be? Izuku raises an eyebrow. comms, of course, Mittens replies, I just need to set up a secure reception network that only our comms can pick up. And what do you need me to do? Izuku asks. For now, I need you to pick up the package I ordered, and it should be here soon. Now. On cue, a call comes from the door. Delivery for Mr. Midoriya Izuku. How do you do that? Izuku asks. Trade secret, Mittens replies. Now move on. I'll start setting the network, but I'll need your hands. Sure. Izuku goes to the door. Too bad we don't have some kind of mechanical hand that you can control. He misses the inspired expression on Mittens' face when she hears this. The night was calm. The group was at home doing their own thing when the door opens and Ronin enters with Mittens hanging from his shoulder. She gets down and jumps onto Izuku's lap. He is wearing his costume, consisting of a dark gray jumpsuit, gloves up to the elbows, and combat boots. On his belt is a pair of metal tonfas and his holstered revolver on his thigh. I have the address, he says as he enters. The guild sits under an abandoned bar on the outskirts of Mustafu. To get in, we need a password. And how do we get this password? Dabi asks. I'm already 2 steps ahead of you, Mitten says, closing her eyes. The TV changes to an image of a camera moving around inside a bar falling to pieces. 2 armed men walk up to a back door and knock 3 times. A piece of paper slides under the door. One of the men looks at the paper and then knocks 5 times on the door. Then the door opens, the man throws the paper over his shoulder and enters. A few seconds later, the camera approaches the discarded paper. On it is a numerical sequence, 8,981 equals. Then the video cuts, and another person is shown. The same thing happens after knocking 3 times on the door. This one also gets a piece of paper and knocks 4 times. The number on her paper was 9,826. 2 other people appear, but enter without leaving the paper behind. Another receives the number 6,043 and knocks twice. 6,317, 1 knock, 8,932, 3 hits. The video then ends. What the hell? Frank says. Is there any logic in this? Of course it has, Ronin replies. It's not that hard. Oh, I get it, Izuku says. It's the Mittens puts a paw on his mouth to stop him. Let them figure it out, she says. Oh, come on, Dabi complains. Puzzles are not my thing. It takes Dabi about 2 hours to solve the puzzle, while Frank gives up after the first hour. In the end, Izuku tells the solution. The next day at night, the group heads to the abandoned bar. Ronin goes to the door and knocks 3 times, and as in the video, a piece of paper is slid under the door. He shows the paper to Izuku. On it are the numbers 8,893. Izuku nods to Ronin, then knocks 5 times on the door. The door then opens, and on the other side is a tall, hairy man with thick arms. A quick glance is enough for Izuku to identify that this is a gorilla mutation. He wonders how strong this man is. First time, the man asks and continues before they can reply. Follow the staircase and enter the door at the end of the hall. Fighting is forbidden. If you have something to settle with someone, take it outside. The master, you'll know who he is, will explain the rest. Izuku thanks the bouncer and follows the staircase. At the end of the corridor was a large red door with a silver star-shaped emblem. Below it were the words, Silver Star Guild, ready? Izuku asks and feels a comforting hand on his shoulder. He doesn't need to look to know it's Ronin or Fighter. He can't risk using real names here. Let's go, Fighter says. Izuku adjusts the hood on his head, then opens the door. I hope you enjoy the watch. All of this isn't mine, they belong to their respective creators. But I'm glad you took some to watch this, so please like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.